down.
Hello, welcome to a video chat about Star Wars Battlefront 2, the single player, which Nick got to play a little bit and talk to the writer and the art designer?
Art director.
Art
Chris.
director, wow.
Yes.
Yeah, who had lots of cool things to say. Obviously, Nick, you've been getting involved in this, so what's it like?
Yeah, well, I had a little trip down to London to go and have a look at a couple of the early chapters of the new single player aspect of Battlefront 2. Down there we met with Mitch Dyer, who is the writer of the story, and Chris Matthews, who's the art director, both from EA Motive. And we saw 3 missions, a sort of prologue mission at the beginning called The Cleaner, another mission called the Battle of Endor, and a mission called the Dauntless. And before we actually got to play any of it, we had a sort of briefing from Chris, who talked about the 3 pillars that they've based the campaign upon. And he said that these 3 pillars are based around gameplay for the trooper, the pilot, and the hero. And these 3 pillars all form the basis of the sort of missions that you're going to play in the campaign. And what we were shown sort of stacks up with that. So the prologue chapter, The Cleaner, kind of focused on Iden Versio. I don't know how to pronounce her surname, but she's going to be the main sort of protagonist, and she is the leader of Inferno Squad.
Yes.
And in this prologue, we get to see a little bit about a little bit of how her abilities can be used. So she's got this droid on her back that she can send off and unlock doors and do little bits and bats like that. It's kind of, that particular level was kind of stealthy. It mixed up elements of stealth and then obviously a little bit of the gunplay. But you're kind of on you're on a ship, on a rebel ship, and you've got to escape that ship essentially. So you use your droid to kind of like scout ahead of you, as I say, open doors, and that droid can also disable enemies by shocking them, to remove them out of the way, by doing that silently so you don't alert other enemies, that kind of thing. And that was kind of cool, just to kind of have a little bit of a play with her. The Battle of Endor mission is, I mean, if I just go back a few steps, Chris talked a little bit about what the focus was for their story, and that was, what would it be like to be an Imperial soldier at perhaps the lowest point for the Empire, which is when the Death Star's blown up by the rebels. So that's where they really start, the sort of first kernel of the idea of what they wanted their story to tell is that idea of what is it like to be as part of the Empire at this terrible moment for them. Obviously, euphoric moment for the rebels, they finally defeated the Emperor and all that jazz, but what's it like on the other side? So this is kind of the premise, and the second mission that I played was really cool actually, because you're on Endor again, which looks amazing, but you're kind of in a battle on Endor that's just to the left or just to the right of what we saw in the movie in The Last Jedi, if you can kind of think about that a little bit. So what's going on in the movie is, Han and Leia and all of that, they're trying to obviously get to the point where they can destroy the Death Star, but over in this place was kind of me as Iden trying to stop the rebels doing what they're doing. It was an interesting battle, and I talked a little bit about this in an interview that I did later on. The Endor map, the Endor mission that you play is quite big, and it feels like there's different ways to approach it. There's sections of rebels that you don't actually have to fight if you don't want to. You can skirt round them, but it's kind of like a play it how you want to level, which I thought was pretty cool. There's different ordnance laid around the map as well, so you can switch out which weapons you're using. There's maybe a sniper or a rocket launcher or whatever. And there's a few cool things that I thought was good, because I unlocked a star card during the course of that mission, and it then gave me a different ability that I could use as Iden. You've got a kind of squad that's working with you. Obviously, your Inferno squad, but you can't control those separately. It is still very much a storied lead through. So it's not a case of, you can control that squad, but you are working together with a squad. And then we moved on to a space mission, which was flying around the Dauntless, which was, again, kind of similar to some of the stuff I played in the preview of the multiplayer, but now in the single player. So the first thing I did, because I learned from that multiplayer, was that you can actually simplify the flying controls, and I'll be honest, the flying controls are awful for me.
Yeah,
I
the
just don't.
same.
My brain doesn't seem to work in the way for flight controls, so I simplified those. Great spectacle to the campaign, absolutely. I'm really intrigued to see where this story's going, because Iden seems like a really interesting character. She seems like she's quite complex. I mean, initially I didn't warm to her that much, but as I played a bit further on and saw a bit more of her interactions with her team, and with her father, I think there's going to be some twists and turns in the campaign. I'm quite interested to see where it goes.
With Battlefield 1, the story and that was excellent. They'll get the talent in to write these stories, which kind of gives me confidence for this one. But did you get any kind of indication of how the story would be structured? I.e., is it just one continuous game, or is it in segments like Battlefield 1? Or did you not really kind of get to see that kind of side of it?
I didn't see anything that would indicate. You mean like it would be focusing on different stories? I didn't see anything to indicate that it would be like that.
Yeah.
And obviously what I've seen, I would suspect not. Because obviously I've played 3 missions, and all of those missions were focused around Iden, either playing as her on her own, or in the squad on Endor, or just in a ship, trying to take out rebels who are attacking the Dauntless. So I don't think that is the case of the story. I can't say definitively, because that isn't what I saw.
Fine. I mean, you say like the spectacle of it's excellent. Like, we all know how good the multiplayer looks, but are we talking similar kind of presentation?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Endor again looks stunning. It's very similar to one of the maps they released for the first Battlefront, the one from a couple of years ago. They released a Battle for Endor map. So there's trees on fire and all this kind of stuff. I mean, it looks fantastic. It really does. And of course, you're trying to fight rebels in the forest, and they're difficult to see, and so it's quite the AI. Actually, I had a few comments on the AI while I was playing. Initially, I felt that the AI were a bit stupid in the cleaner section, because the cleaner section, you're on a ship, so it's narrow corridors, it's very tight, close quarters combat, and they seemed a bit dumb. Just kept running towards the gunfire, basically. So they were just lining up. It was like shooting fish in a barrel. But on Endor, there seemed to be a little bit more complexity to the AI, because there was a couple of times when they got in behind me. And they seemed to try and flank and what have you, which I thought was really positive, actually, because initially I was a little bit like, is this just going to be a blast away and you're going to get through it? But I'm not convinced that is the case after seeing how the AI performed on Endor. So I'm keen to see whether there'll be bigger sort of battles and how it's going to go forward.
Yeah, it's good to know it's promising. And before we go, obviously third person's the best way to play this, isn't it?
Obviously.
Yeah, definitely.
Obviously.
Yeah.
The first thing I did... You joke, Chris, but it was actually the first thing I did, is I immediately switched from first person to third person. Yeah, I don't know why. I mean, I'm normally a first person player, but it just feels so much better to play it in third person. That's just a personal preference,
Yeah.
but it really does feel better to play. Plus, of course, you can see your character who
Yeah.
looks amazing
Yeah,
in
definitely.
a black Imperial gear.
Well,
And that's important.
it is.
You know?
It is important. And everyone listening and watching the footage, you can go and read the interview that Nick did with the guys, and you can also read a hands-on. So there's loads of Star Wars stuff. It's next month. It's not far along now. It's very exciting. There's all the multiplayer stuff that we covered as well that Nick covered. Go and check that out. Thanks for joining me, Nick.
You're welcome, Chris.
No worries, and thank you for watching, guys. Bye bye.